For most shooters, 22 long rifle is the cartridge they think they already understand. It is cheap, quiet, light recoiling, easy to shoot, and available almost everywhere. It is the round people buy by the brick, burn through on a Saturday afternoon, and rarely think about until something goes wrong. And that is exactly why 22 long rifle is one of the most misunderstood cartridges in the gun world. Not because it is complicated in the way a precision rifle cartridge is complicated, but because it looks simple enough to ignore. People talk about centerfire ammunition like every load matters. Then they treat rimfire like it is all basically the same. The problem is, 22 LR punishes that assumption more than almost any other cartridge. That is what makes the new wave of 22 long rifle ammunition interesting. On the surface, it looks like another round of product releases. A subsonic here, a hypervelocity load there, a lever gun load, a budget hollow point, a cleaner polymer-coated option, a familiar standard velocity round with a recognizable name on the box. But the real story is not that companies are making more 22 ammo. They have always made plenty of it. The real story is that manufacturers are now admitting something shooters learned the hard way years ago. There is no single 22 LR load that does everything well. The cartridge is too small, too sensitive, and too dependent on the gun that fires it for one universal answer to exist. That is the hidden conflict behind the entire rimfire market. Shooters want 22 LR to be simple, but they also want it to behave like a specialized tool. They want it to be cheap for plinking, accurate for targets, reliable in semi-autos, quiet through suppressors, effective on small game, clean enough to protect their gear, and powerful enough to stretch distance. Those demands fight each other. A quiet subsonic load may not cycle every semi-auto. A hypervelocity load may shoot flatter but can be louder, more expensive, and more stressful on certain platforms. A budget hollow point might be good enough in one rifle and frustrating in another. A standard velocity round might group beautifully in a bolt action and disappoint in a pistol. 22 LR is not one thing. It is a category full of compromises wearing the same case dimensions. Remington's newer rimfire efforts show why this matters. For decades, shooters have had mixed feelings about mass-market 22 ammunition. Some of it works well enough for casual range days. Some of it causes misfires, inconsistent groups, or feeding problems in picky guns. So when a company tries to improve ignition consistency, case strength, rim design, and overall reliability, it is not just tweaking a product. It is responding to the oldest complaint in rimfire shooting. The round did not go bang, or it did not go where the shooter expected. In a centerfire rifle, people may blame the shooter, the scope, the barrel, or the load data. In 22 LR, the ammunition itself is often the first suspect, and not without reason. But improved reliability does not automatically mean match-grade performance. That is another mistake people make. A better plinking round can still be a plinking round. A tighter group compared with an older bulk load is an improvement, not a miracle. Consistency and velocity, primer ignition, bullet plating, and case quality still separates affordable ammunition from the kind of rimfire ammo serious precision shooters buy by lot number. And this is where Remington's place in the conversation becomes useful. It shows the middle ground. Most shooters do not need Olympic-level rimfire ammunition. They need something that feeds, fires, groups reasonably well, and does not make every range session feel like a quality control experiment. That sounds modest, but in 22 LR, modest reliability is valuable. Then there is the other side of the market, quiet ammunition. Suppressed rimfire shooting has changed the way many people think about 22 LR. Once you shoot a good subsonic load through a suppressor, the cartridge feels almost transformed. It stops being just a cheap training round and becomes something more specialized, more controlled, and in some situations more practical. Loads like CC-size suppressor-focused offerings exist because shooters no longer want quiet ammunition that barely functions. They want low noise, reliable cycling, and enough terminal performance for small game or pest control use. That is a difficult balance. Keep the velocity below the speed of sound and you lose energy. Add bullet weight or specialized projectile design and the cost goes up. Try to make it cycle semi-autos and the engineering gets even tighter. This is where the quiet shooting conversation becomes more complicated than people expect. The internet often treats subsonic ammunition as if it is automatically better for suppressed use. In one sense, that is true. Avoiding the supersonic crack matters. But a subsonic round still has to be accurate, stable, consistent, and compatible with the firearm. It also has to fit the shooter's actual purpose. If the goal is casual plinking, an expensive segmenting hollow point may be unnecessary. If the goal is discrete pest control where legal and appropriate, then terminal behavior matters more. If the gun is a semi-auto, cycling matters. If the gun is a bolt action, cycling does not matter at all. The same box of ammunition can be perfect for one shooter and overpriced for another. Federal's move into lever-action-specific 22 ammunition reveals another overlooked truth. The firearm platform matters as much as the cartridge. For years, lever-action rimfires have occupied a nostalgic, practical, almost old-fashioned corner of the market. They are fun, handy, and often reliable, but tubular magazines and cycling geometry can be sensitive to bullet shape, case finish, and overall smoothness. A nickel-plated case and a bullet profile designed for cleaner feeding may not sound exciting on paper, but in the right gun, those details are the difference between effortless shooting and constant hesitation. This is the kind of improvement that does not impress people who only read velocity numbers, but it matters to the shooter who actually runs a lever gun for hundreds of rounds. That is the larger lesson. 22 LR performance is often decided by small details that look boring. Case coating, bullet plating, rim thickness, primer distribution, bullet weight, overall lubrication, velocity spread, chamber fit, extractor behavior, magazine geometry. In a more powerful cartridge, some of those differences can be masked by pressure and energy. In 22 LR, they move to the front of the stage. That is why one rifle loves a certain budget hollow point while another refuses to feed it cleanly. It is why shooters can argue endlessly about the same ammunition and both be telling the truth. Their guns are not the same. Their barrels are not the same. Their magazines are not the same. Rimfire is personal in a way many shooters underestimate. Aguila's budget hollow point ammunition is a good example of that reality. It has earned loyalty because it offers usable performance at a price many shooters can live with. For plinking, informal practice, and light varmint work where appropriate, good enough can be exactly what people need. But good enough is not universal. In one semi-auto, it may run cleanly for an entire afternoon. In another, it may produce occasional failures to feed or eject. That does not necessarily mean the ammunition is bad. It means rimfire tolerance stacking is real. The buyer who understands 22 LR does not buy a case because a stranger online said it worked. They test a small amount in their own firearm before committing. That single habit separates experienced rimfire shooters from frustrated ones. Hypervelocity ammunition creates a different kind of temptation. A load like CCI's clean, high-speed polymer-coated option appeals to the shooter who wants the little cartridge to act bigger than it is. More speed means a flatter trajectory, more impact energy, and more dramatic performance at distance. The polymer coating adds another modern promise: less lead fouling, less suppressor grime, and less time cleaning. That sounds like progress, and in many ways it is. But speed is never free. Hypervelocity 22 LR can be louder, more expensive, and not always the most accurate choice in every barrel. The same extra velocity that makes the bullet more useful at 100 yards may be irrelevant for close-range plinking. Again, the question is not whether the ammunition is good. The question is whether its strengths match the job. Norma's subsonic ammunition illustrates the quiet middle ground. It is not necessarily the flashiest option, and that may be its strength. A good subsonic round does not need to be exotic to be valuable. It needs to stay below the speed of sound, group consistently, and deliver predictable performance at the distances where subsonic rimfire makes sense. The trade-off is trajectory. Slower bullets drop more quickly, and past a certain distance the shooter has to pay attention. That is not a flaw, it is physics. The problem only appears when someone expects a quiet load to behave like a fast one. Every gain has a shadow. Less noise usually means more arc, more speed usually means more sound, more specialization usually means more cost. And then there is standard velocity ammunition, the category many shooters overlook because it sounds boring. But boring can be useful. Standard velocity often sits in the most practical part of the rimfire spectrum, not too loud, not too slow, not too expensive, and often accurate enough for real practice. For paper targets, casual precision, and general-purpose shooting, a decent 40-grain standard velocity round can be more satisfying than a flashy load that solves a problem you do not have. This is where experienced shooters often end up after trying everything else. They learn that the most dramatic ammunition is not always the most useful. Sometimes the best range ammo is the one your gun likes, your wallet tolerates, and your targets confirm. That is the twist in the 22 LR conversation. The cartridge that people treat as cheap and simple may actually demand more testing, more humility, and more personal experimentation than many centerfire rounds. You cannot fully judge it by the box. You cannot fully judge it by velocity. You cannot even fully judge it by brand reputation. The real test happens in your firearm, with your magazines, your barrel, your suppressor, if you use one, your distance, and your expectations. That is why rimfire shooters become loyal to certain loads in a way that sounds almost superstitious. It is not superstition, it is experience. They found the combination that works, and they know how fragile that discovery can be. So the new generation of 22 long rifle ammunition is not just giving shooters more choices. It is forcing them to be more honest about what they actually need. If you want quiet, choose quiet and accept the limits. If you want speed, choose speed and accept the noise and cost. If you want clean shooting, understand what the coating is solving. If you want lever gun reliability, pay attention to feeding details. If you want budget volume, test before you stockpile. And if you want precision, stop expecting bulk grade prices to deliver match grade consistency. The cartridge may be small, but the trade-offs are not. In the end, 22 LR remains popular for the same reason it has always been popular. It lets people shoot more. But the future of 22 LR is not just cheap bricks and casual plinking. It is a more specialized world where shooters are finally admitting that the little rimfire can be tuned for very different purposes. That is good news, but it also means the easy answer is gone. The best 22 long rifle ammunition is not the newest, fastest, quietest, or most expensive. It is the one that matches the firearm, the purpose, and the shooter behind it. And once you understand that, the humble 22 stops looking like a simple cartridge and starts looking like one of the most revealing tests of judgment in the entire gun world.